Hello, everyone. This is the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast about political commentary, a sprinkling of philosophy, organizing psychology, and revolutionary thinking. My name is 4AS, and joining me today is one of our co hosts. It's Kareem the Dream, our resident AI extraordinaire, and who's been delving into a bit of vibe coding. How are you going today, mate?
Yeah, good man, good man. I'm excited to share a lot of stuff today. It's I got a lot to share, so I'm hoping it doesn't turn into a TED talk. Uh,
Uh, Actually, to be
it's
completely honest, I'm completely fine if it ends up turning into a TED talk because
yeah,
today, you have uh handed in your card for AI exploring, and now you've taken your new card of vibe coding. So,
yeah.
actually, just for the listener, if they're encountering this podcast for the very first time, what the hell is vibe coding?
Well, okay. So look, maybe I might just share a little bit more about my journey. I've got ADHD. And it's probably not this simple, but like I get a lot of ideas, and there have been some studies that have shown some links between ADHD and creativity. So for the
Right.
longest time, a lot of my ideas, and I just get ideas about completely random stuff. I'm into a lot of stuff, so like whether it be, I don't know. Like sometimes I'll just ask questions about like quantum physics. I don't really know anything about quantum physics, but I'll just come up with an analogy and be like, "Hey, let me check this one out." So for the longest time, I was just sort of talking to the AI, and AI has this habit of sycophantically validating a lot of ideas.
Yes.
So this was like it's doing way better these days. Like the models we have access to these days have been tuned a little bit better against it.
Hmm.
But for the longest time, it's sort of fallen into this trap of getting an idea, going straight to the AI. The AI will be like, "Wow, this is a brilliant idea! Holy shit, this is amazing!" I'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, my ideas are good. Okay, I'm gonna share them."
Hmm.
Then I go and share them, and then people are like, "This is shit,"
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"Oh, damn!" So the AI was lying to me. So I'd go to like Reddit or something like that and share a physics theory that I had, and people would be like, "This is garbage." So like that stuff like happened to me, and basically, I had I kept at it anyway because I was enjoying myself and I wanted to explore AI. So I got into the habit of sort of like being like, okay, if I don't want that to happen again, then I've got to be
Mm.
asking the AI the right questions. Then I've got to ask it to challenge my thinking. Basically, I've got to use it to sharpen my thinking, not just be like, am I right? Am I right? Be like, I want you to find the holes in this argument. I want you to stress test it, find the failure modes, find the edge cases. So when you ask it those kind of questions about your ideas, it's actually really good at finding holes in your ideas. So it's all about asking
Yeah,
it the right questions. So
yes, yes. I would say that it's also about asking you the right questions, but just to kind of use an analogy to kind of go along with what you were saying, like, let's go with the classic Matrix, Descartes. There's a little demon on your shoulder. Are you sure what you touch, what you taste, what you feel, whether that's actually real or is it a simulation? And
yeah,
I kind of think, uh, along that lines, if you're just dealing within the box, if you were AI exploring, if you will, if it's somebody else that's made the system for you, then I can understand how that could be a problem because you're like, okay, how do I know? How do I know whatever prompt I put in? Is it going to? Is it just going to give me back what I want to hear, just so I keep using it?
yeah,
I understand from that framework, people would be like, oh, is it AI psychosis? However,
yeah.
this is and I believe this is where you're leading us today, is that Yeah, but if you're coding, if you're doing the AI yourself, then surely that's a way out of that a paradox, if you will,
Ed,
because
you're
because you can.
absolutely on the right track, and
Okay,
I will explain. Yeah, I will explain why in a little bit.
right, right,
Um,
right.
like it'll definitely make more sense as we go along because yeah, and I'll get there shortly. I promise. Like
Mm,
give me a minute or two. like so. Anyway, I come up, like again, I get a lot of ideas. I keep running them past AI. I'm like, is this any good? Is this any good? Sometimes it'll sycophantically validate me. Sometimes it'll just push back me like, nah, this is not a good idea. You're on the wrong track. Your understanding of this is this. These are the holes in your understanding of whatever this area is.
mm,
So, which I was grateful for because it's like, okay, great. Well, if you can push back on some stuff, then the stuff that it's not pushing back on should theoretically be better if it
mm,
is capable of pushing back on stuff. So, but I still had this reservation inside me around like, is my stuff any good? So I'd get these ideas for new things that we could do with AI, different AI systems we could build, like different applications of it. And I had like this whole sort of like portfolio of ideas that were basically like product descriptions, and I could even tell it to write like a technical design document, but I still couldn't build. So
mm.
anytime I'd go to the AI and I'd ask it like, okay, what are my ideas worth, and like I'm looking for validation here. So it would come back and be like when it was doing the sycophancy thing, it'd be like
Mm.
your ideas are worth billions of dollars,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
trillions in market impact, and I'm like yeah. Originally, I was like yeah, and then later on, I was like, man, these numbers are just made up, like these. Like, so the bubble popped, like and my ego took a massive hit. And then when it started, it was actually Claude. Actually, no, Gemini did it as well, but
Right.
actually, no, ChatGPT did it as well. The thing that they kept pushing back on was, can you prototype? Can you build? Like what they were saying was, when I asked for honesty, I'm like, be honest with me. Are my ideas any good? Am I going anywhere? I'm like, is any of this worth it?
Mm.
Is all my AI exploring like worth anything? So they're like, look, if you haven't got any prototypes and you haven't got any empirical evidence, then you don't have anything, basically. You've just got theoretical frameworks, you've just got design descriptions, you're a visionary, great, you've got great ideas. Um, but there's hundreds of those. There's what we need is builders, basically. Like
Well,
if you can't build,
yeah.
you can't prove anything works. So you can't
Well, to
prove any of your theories if you don't have data.
yeah, yeah.
You can't prove any of your systems if you don't have at least a prototype working or something like
Yeah.
that.
to
So
to to be fair, I could at least understand like that premise because uh, let's just go back to high school science. Like,
yeah,
you don't have a hypothesis. You don't sorry, you don't stop the experiment at the hypothesis. Like you actually
yeah,
have to conduct the
run the
experiment
experiment, run the
and then
experiment exactly,
and then once you've conducted the experiment, you record, hey, what went right, what went wrong, what could we do differently, and then you try it again, and then you
exactly,
try it again, and then you try it
exactly.
again.
This is how good science is supposed to work.
Yeah.
My background's in psychology. We're trained to be scientists. I know this is how the scientific method works. This is how like the product design life cycle is supposed to work as well.
Mm,
Apparently,
mm,
like you build something, you test it. Does it work? Does it do what it says it's gonna do?
mm.
Um, if it doesn't, go back and fix it. So if you're going to make a claim that my product solves X problem, or this app that I built does this thing for you, then you've still got to test it. Like you build it, but you've still got to test it. Does it actually do what I said it was going to do? So
Mm-mm.
eventually, like after it put so much pressure on me to start building, Like it said, this is the pattern with you, Kareem. Like it's the novelty seeking thing. It's you always move on to the next thing before before you finish the last thing. So I've
Yeah.
got like 50 unfinished ideas. I've got like mountains of documents that I'm drowning in that are all AI generated, and I'm like this is a new AI architecture. Like I'll give you an example. Like epigenetic evolutionary algorithms,
Right.
was one of the ideas that I had. I'm like, we've got evolutionary algorithms, which are capable of finding different ways of solving problems. I'm like, what if we
Yeah.
put epigenetics in there? Does that work? So it's just as a random idea. Anyway,
Mm-mm-mm.
um, it kept like Claude has a memory, and it started noticing the patterns across what I was doing.
Right.
And because Claude, they started putting more of an emphasis on the mental health thing and on the like anti-sycophantic things. So Claude started like pushing back on me like a fair bit, saying, "Listen, you're coming up with all these ideas, but you're not building anything. Why
Yeah. Yeah.
aren't you
Right.
building anything?
Right.
Like I've got to push back here. Why aren't you building anything? Why aren't you even trying these vibe coding apps? Is there anything that I can do to encourage you to try building stuff?"
Mm.
And so eventually, like I caved,
So are
and
you saying that Claude, like, it crafted an intervention for you? It's like, Kareem,
yeah, pretty
you've been doing
much,
this for a
yeah,
while. We
pretty
we
much.
really
Like,
we really think you should actually do some coding for yourself, mate.
well, that's the thing. I mean, they make all these different like vibe code. So let me
Mm.
explain what vibe coding is. Going back to
Okay.
your original question, yeah.
Yeah.
So once upon a time, if you wanted to learn how to code, you needed to speak a programming language, yeah,
Mm.
which is a particular way of talking to the computer, of telling it what you want to do, which is it's almost um like I don't know, it's this is a really simplistic sort of like description of it, but have you played much around with Excel,
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Microsoft Excel?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
have.
so
Yeah.
in Microsoft Excel, like if you're building a formula in a cell, like there's a specific logic to the formula. Yeah,
Yes.
like you've got to start to think in terms of, if I want this thing to do this thing and represent this thing, then it has to point to this thing, and like there's a way that you have to think in order to be able to get it to do what you want on an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Programming languages are the next level above that, basically. So
Mm.
once you've learned how to think that way, like a programming language is almost, it's like talking to a computer
Yeah.
in a different way. Only there's different logical sequences that you can make. There's different moves you can make. There's a different language that you have to speak. Now, if you don't
Yeah.
speak the language, it's inaccessible to you. And to actually learn the language, there is value in learning the language. I dabbled in it like ages ago.
Mm.
Like it opens up your mind in terms of new ways of thinking. Um, but basically, once AI came into the mix, and it's kind of predictable that this happened, is that um, the first thing that they wanted to learn how to automate was like the, their own jobs, like because that's what they're
Yeah.
experts at.
Mm.
It's like, can you make my life easier? So
Yeah.
if you're going to build something, it's, can you make my life easier? All the tedious stuff that I don't want to do, can AI do that for me?
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense. Yeah. So the stuff that got good first was like the coding stuff. Yeah.
Mm.
So the parts of coding which are tedious, because what happens with coding is you'll spell out this whole language, this whole sequence of operations, and then you'll click run, and then you'll find that there might be one syntax error in the whole thing, which stops the program from running,
Yeah.
which is infuriating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they call it debugging, basically. Like People would spend most of their time not writing code, but debugging. So trying to figure out, why is my code not working? Yeah, this is like a massive problem for the longest. This is why software development took so long, basically. So, like, anytime software came out, like, you got no idea how much effort they used to put into, like, creating these apps and this type of software, because you have to speak the language perfectly, that have entire teams of people working on different features, different, so, like, we take all this stuff for granted. We got we got no idea how much effort actually goes into writing the code, testing it, debugging it. Like it takes ages to do this stuff. Yeah. So predictably, they were like, "Hey, we got AI now. Can AI do it for us?" So, some of the earliest applications of AI were these coding programs, and that's kind of what took off first, because the people that were most into AI were the people that were most into the software stuff and development anyway. That, again, that makes perfect sense. Computer scientists, that's what it is. So anyway, I mean, little did they know they're probably automating their own jobs away. So, which is kind of ironic, but anyway, the way to think about it now is that, so it would have been last year, around March last year, the term vibe coding came out. And the idea was that you could just go into one of these apps, tell it what you wanted to do, and it would write the code for you. Yeah. Now, it wouldn't write the code perfectly. It would still make some mistakes. But what you could say was, like, when it gives you an error message, all you do is you take the error message, you plug it back into the chat box, and you're like, "This is the error message you gave me. Can you fix it, please?" And then it would go through and run through the error message, and it would fix it. So it was now capable of debugging itself, debugging its own code. So this was, so, like, one of the famous guys in AI, called Andrej Karpathy. He coined the term vibe coding. He's like, yeah, I don't actually do that much coding anymore. Most of what I do is vibe coding. It's I'm just going with the vibe of where it's going. I'm just telling the AI what to code, and I'm just plugging the error messages back in and just letting it cycle through itself. So that's when the AI coding thing had already taken off by that stage. But, like, now that they had a term for it, like, it started to become way more popular. A whole bunch of YouTube videos came up on it, that sort of thing. So anyway, I didn't join the party until like I had maybe one or two cracks at it, but I didn't quite know how to tell the AI what I wanted to do. I didn't quite know how to navigate it, because the kind of stuff that I wanted to build, I thought it was too complex to get vibe coded. I'm coming up with, like, all these crazy ideas. I'm not looking for, like, to make a to-do list or for help planning my week, or to make a fitness tracker or something like that, which was, like, a lot of the stuff that I was seeing around what was getting vibe coded were these really simple, personalized kind of apps, like stuff that would help people out in their daily lives.
Of course.
I had all these grand ambitions around, what AI could be used for, and I'm like, no, you can't vibe code that stuff. So I held off on it.
You're only it's the only blocks are your mind, Kareem. Your only blocks.
Well, but I've had to learn that the hard way, that you're really only limited by your creativity these days.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, so Claude, so I kept coming up with these ideas. Claude kept being like, like, I know you've been playing around with this app called Anti-Gravity, which is made by Google. It's a full stack development thing. So I'll just, I'm still a baby in this world. It's a massive development world that I barely understand, but I'll give you the basics of it.
Yeah.
There's a front end and there's a back end, basically. So
Okay.
a front end is what a user sees. So when you go to a website, when you use anything on the web, basically the stuff that you interact with, that's all front end stuff. So this button goes here, these words go here, this side panel goes here, this video goes here. That's all front end stuff. So there are people that specialize in front end stuff, and then there's back end stuff. And this is what the user doesn't see. Basically, it's everything on
Right.
the other
Yeah.
side of the screen. So this is like your database handling, your authentication stuff, your like anything that happens behind the scenes is like back end stuff. So to get an app that does both front end and back end, which is what Google Anti Gravity did. This is the first sort of vibe coding platform I was playing around with. They marketed it as a full stack development thing, and I didn't want I guess because of some privacy stuff. I'd rather sort of build on my computer, and keep my stuff local instead of having everything on the web and that sort of thing. So anyway, we're playing around with anti-gravity. Finally started making some stuff. So that was in January this year.
Okay.
Like late January, I started sort of taking it seriously. And since then, like my life has completely changed. So
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
yeah, it's opened up like an entirely brand new world for me. So my background is in research. I did a lot of applied research in industry, not so much academic stuff, but more like specialist in evaluation methodologies. So how do we measure the gray stuff? So
And
I've
this
done.
ties to you being like a psych student, especially
Yeah,
being
so
organizational
psychologists.
psych, right?
Yeah. So psychology students, we get a training in psychological science, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
science is making a hypothesis, testing it, does it work, being able to read the statistics, being able to consume the primary literature, being what they call a scientist practitioner. So if you want to be evidence based, if you want to just be someone who comes up with like self-help stuff, then that's cool, do your thing. But if you want to know whether or not your self-help stuff actually works,
Yeah,
then
right.
you've got to test it.
Yeah.
So, and to test it, you've got to measure it. But how do you measure psychological stuff? Because you can't see it. So there's a whole bunch of like measurement theory that goes into like psychology, which is really underappreciated, but it's really important. Because if you don't get the measurements right, then how do you know whether or not what you did actually works?
Yeah, of
Let's
course.
say if you've got depression and I'm going to give you counseling, how do I know whether or not I'm any good at my job? If I can't measure an improvement in your before and after state. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
This is what like clinical trials, this is what pharmaceutical companies have to go through all the time in order to get their drug released. So if they're gonna sell any medicine, they've got to go through these clinical trials to prove, okay, this is what a person looked like before. We gave them this drug. This is what they look like after on the same measurement, and we can prove that there was a shift in that. So measurement is a big deal, and particularly in like organizations, it's a lot harder to measure the stuff because the kinds of things that we're looking for are like teamwork or leadership or like how good are you at your job or what sort of capabilities does it take to do this job. These things they're a little bit harder to measure. So there are people that specialize in like the measurement of like capabilities.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Because if we want to know before we hire you whether or not you can do the job. So how well you can do the job depends on how well we can measure whether or not you have the capabilities that it takes to do the job. So anyway, let me bring it back to vibe coding. So because of my research background, so the thing that I brought to coding was like a whole bunch of research ideas. So I don't have. Well, okay. Let me take it in a different direction, if that's all right with you. So,
no, by all means.
In AI at the moment, they're trying to measure intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what they'll do is they'll give the AI these benchmarks. Yeah. So they'll ask it, okay, how well can it code? How well can it answer a set of questions, a set of like multiple choice questions. How well can it sit the bar exam, for example?
Yeah, right.
Like, can it sit a graduate medical exam? Can it do PhD level thinking? So it will give it a whole bunch of tests across these domains and ask how well does it do across the test, and because of that, like there are these what they call benchmarks which the AI companies use to compare their models to the other models. They'll be like, yeah, we scored 72% on SweBench, or we scored 68% on SweBench. Our model's the best, basically. And they'll use these measurements as examples of we have the smartest model. Now, intelligence is actually incredibly difficult to measure. So, because intelligence encompasses a whole bunch of stuff. Like for example,
well, yeah, and plus, like, surely there's a lot of factors within intelligence as well. Like, for example, one person could be a morning person, and if they sat the bar exam that morning, they would have done really, really well. Whereas the other person who's a night owl and, isn't exactly functioning first thing in the morning, maybe they won't do so well on that bar exam.
okay. So
So like there's different factors that are affecting there that could be,
absolutely.
yeah.
And in statistics, like we would call this either a confounding variable,
Right.
or measurement noise. Basically, like if we've identified a confounding variable which affects the measurement that we're actually going for.
Yeah.
So you're putting your scientist hat on. I like it. Like, good. This is how scientists are supposed to think. Like, what else is affecting my measurement?
Right.
One of the projects that I'm not allowed to talk about, but I'll give you a brief hint. I designed a way to basically figure out where that noise is in your measurement and how to get rid of it. So if you give me your data, I can audit it. I can figure out where is this noise coming from? What does it mean? How do we fix it? This is, again, it's all hush hush, but that's basically what my system does. I'm not going to show you that system today.
Yeah, but I guess in relation to the analogy that we put before, like obviously you can't show us today, but the confounding variables we were mentioning before uh, about the night owl and the early morning riser with intelligence, you're saying whatever your system is and those confounding variables, it's just solved how to, this is simplistic, but how to measure intelligence properly. Like,
I haven't actually run it on intelligence measurements. I probably should. That's a good idea. Thank you.
yes, yeah, but I guess I was using that analogy to say that those confounding variables of the early morning riser and the night owl, they are not factors anymore because it takes that noise out, like you said.
Look, it can't. Yeah, again, I can't go into too much detail around
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like there are methods that exist in statistics where we can control for that noise. So if we
Yeah.
remove the influence, so these are like your covariance analyses. So if we remove the influence of this variable, if we measure this variable and we remove its influence, what relationship between other variables can we see? So
Right.
so this is how we start to map how the different variables fit together, on what the relationship between variables are. We control for one, we see, do these two, are they correlated? We control for this one, are these two correlated? So we can like start triangulating measurements. And once you add more and more measurements and you can figure out more and more stuff, um, measurement is hard. Statistics is hard for a reason. A
Mm.
lot of people get this stuff wrong. And I'll take another crack at marketers again because I love taking a crack at marketers. They look at your clicks, for example, where you click on a web page, how long you spent looking at a video, and they'll make inferences from that data about what you're into. So
Mm.
they'll try to sell you stuff based on what they've figured out by your patterns of behavior across your cookies, across your third party cookies, I forget what the terms are, but the stuff that monitors your browsing behavior basically. They can figure out what to sell you. If these guys if these guys ever actually got into statistics and measurement science, we would be doomed. Because
Yeah.
the stuff that they would sell you, you would buy 100%. That
Oh,
like
yeah.
would
The
become
they.
hyper personalized. Like if they
Oh,
ever figured out this measurement science stuff, so I'm glad. I'm sure there are probably some psychologists out there that are sold out and be like, I'm going to chase the money, like same
yeah.
way that that there's some psychologists that, oh, I don't blame them. Like it's not, it's for a lot of people, it's not a high paying profession. It's not like it's not sort of mad prestigious or anything. Like it's reputable, but it's not like a mad prestigious position within society. I
Mm.
don't. If someone rocks up and says, "I'll pay you $1 million if you can help me figure out how to use psychology to make poker machines more addictive," like
Yeah.
because that's what they're optimizing for. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure Facebook pays psychologists as well. Like, how do we maximize engagement, basically?
Right.
So, when these guys get in the mix and they've got an understanding of the measurement science, like that's when we're fucked. Like, so,
Yeah, because like
so
if a
yeah,
marketer
so
got
like
if a
there are
yeah.
ethical standards in Australia around how psychologists are supposed to behave. Like, if you want registration as a psychologist, um, if you're not registered anymore and you still have that knowledge and you're broke, like it'd be quite easy for you to sell out. So. Anyway, that's not how I am, but I don't blame anyone for sort of landing in that situation. So,
But
um,
I know we've gone on a massive tangent, but to kind
and
of circle back to the original topic, look, it's quite obvious that you've done a massive deep dive with vibe coding and all of that. But
yeah,
since you started in January and up until now in April, yeah, how are you feeling? How's your confidence with everything that you've been doing?
look, I've it's 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 way better because instead of like second guessing myself and having a whole bunch of like theoretical frameworks, I can now get the AI to run tests for me. So
Right.
I can now get it. I've got prototypes. I've got measurements now. I've got empirical
Mm.
data. I've got stuff that I can point to that I can say see, my stuff actually works, basically. So,
Mm.
and I've got like a whole bunch of projects. Like I'll give you an example of a recent one. You know, I had some theories around like how economics works, like the
Yeah.
relationship between, you know, risk and ambiguity and uncertainty. Like uncertainty is a thing that I talk about a lot. Like because in my mind, you know, like how we navigate uncertainty is a huge part of our lives. Like a
Yeah.
lot of us don't deal well with uncertainty. This is what
Mm.
like mental shortcuts are about. We arrive at conclusions prematurely without assessing all the evidence, without looking
Yeah.
at all the different perspectives, and that's part of psychology as well. Is you know, if we spent all day second guessing ourselves, we'd never get anything done.
Yeah.
um, so you know, there's a reason for this stuff, but how we, like the people that don't handle uncertainty well, tend to be anxious types. Like they'll spend time worrying about the what ifs. You know,
Mm.
like what if this goes wrong? You know, like if something's coming up, like there's uncertainty there. That's like a tension within them. So
And
anyway,
look, this is probably something for a future conversation, on a future episode. But I must say, because Kareem, you're part of my board game group, and now
yeah,
my D&D group. Can I just say,
yeah,
dealing with uncertainty and at least reacting and, I wouldn't exactly
yeah,
say improvising, but at least thinking on the fly. It's
yeah,
you definitely have to do that as a dungeon master, because you guys can throw any sort of creativity at me, and
yeah,
I've just got to react, and I've just got to roll with it. I've got to yes and it,
yeah, yeah.
because anything or everything can happen.
So that's why you'll find that like your creative types, um, and this is part of one of my theories was um, that like it turns out that your tolerance for uncertainty is actually linked to your creativity. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, this is something that I was exploring in a few different ways. So like there's an optimal zone for uncertainty that brings out creativity in you. So this is why like your jazz musicians have to improvise on the fly, have to be good at dealing with uncertainty as well. Your artists, you know, when you're selecting from a possibility space and collapsing that possibility space into a decision,
Hmm.
that's part of what creativity is. Um,
Yeah, but that
eh,
isn't that basically what the flow state is? Like, okay, just using the jazz player example right there, is that they well, look, I could be mixing metaphors here, but or maybe I'm misunderstanding the concept. But at least I kind of feel like with the flow state, well, you have obviously the jazz player knows the notes, knows how to feel jazz and all of that, and I guess the uncertainty is, say the trumpeter gets given a solo halfway through
yeah,
the piece, and I guess he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do, but he's kind of feeling his way through it, and
yeah,
I guess putting himself
like,
to the test, and feeling his way through it. But because he's not second guessing himself, he's not. Rather than thinking he's feeling, he navigates that uncertainty to the start to the finish of that ad lib or that solo.
yeah, yeah. Look, flow state is definitely like I haven't read the literature on it, so I'm not entirely familiar with it. But I'm pretty sure flow state is linked with higher creativity. Now,
Mm.
our measurements for creativity, this is part of what I was exploring. Um, honestly, they're not very good. Like the things that like having gone through the creative process and sort of studying my own creative process and knowing a bit about psychology, the measurements that we have for creativity at the moment in my opinion, like they're because it's so hard to define. The measurements that we have are not very good, and a lot of the time it's conflated with like if I'm trying to measure your raw creativity, like let's take the trumpet as an example. Um, how much of it is your trumpet playing ability? So like how long you've spent studying how to play trumpet versus what your actual creative potential is. Yeah. Like is there an underlying raw creativity factor that's cross domain, for example? Can we call you a creative person or just a creative trumpeter? Like you only got a trumpet, or like we would call that a confounding variable, for example. So like you can't be a creative trumpeter if you don't know how to play trumpet. So that's a limit to your creativity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of how the measurements interact. But I'll give you an example of some of the experiments that I've been running recently. So around so I had some hypotheses around like how we handle uncertainty, and these like the way that statisticians and mathematicians and sort of typically handle uncertainties via these like statistical methods. And I had an issue with the statistical methods. I didn't like how they worked. I pointed out a hole in it. I'm like, hang on, like one of the methods they use is called Bayesian updating, for example. Like you update your evidence. Like you've got like, let's say at the start of something, you map out every possibility that could happen, and you assign a probability to it. As new evidence comes in, you change your probabilities. Yeah. So you're shifting your probabilities based on new evidence coming in. That's one of the main methods that they're using at the moment for how to deal with uncertainty, or at least program it into computers. My argument was, hang on, you don't always know what all the possibilities are at the start of the session, so you can't always allocate them a probability. So sometimes a new possibility pops up that you didn't know at the start. Now Bayesian methods can't handle that. So I'm like, so you can't. So it's not that's not how it works. Like that's not how we navigate uncertainty. So I built a system that I wanted it to be able to handle as this dynamic hypothesis space. So can it handle incoming information? Can it handle like calculating those probabilities and making decisions based on new evidence coming in, hypothesis dying, hypothesis being birthed, and some hypothesis being ruled out altogether. So now where would that be useful? Decision making. Anywhere there's decision making. Yeah. So leaders make decisions, governments make decisions, judges make decisions, like high stakes decisions. Yeah. So doctors make decisions, and this is where I wound up sort of finding my niche. I started focusing on like publicly available clinical data sets, and so like these are data sets that I can download, and I can actually start to test whether or not this program that I've vibe coded actually works. Does it improve clinical decision making? So I can test it against a baseline. And this is kind of where things started to take off for me. So again, like the measurement thing is important, but I might so I call that program Aurora. I'm not going to share it with you today, but it's again IP all this stuff.
Okay, well, since you've mentioned it, like, why don't we jump right in to maybe you can share screen and show us some of the stuff that you have for us today.
Okay.
So with that, we'll just do a quick timeout, and then when you're back with us, we will have our first program up for for Kareem to show us.
Before we do the timeout, I want to link it back to the AI intelligence thing because as I've been explaining, measurement is hard, measurement is important, uncertainty is hard. Like these are some of the common, like, creativities, and like these are some of the common themes across all my work, basically.
Mm.
But when it comes to measuring AI intelligence, um, we don't have a whole lot of like psychologists in the mix, basically.
Mm.
Like in psychology, to measure intelligence, you've got to jump through a whole bunch of hoops called psychometrics. Like if I give it to you today and then I give it to you in 2 weeks, do your scores change? Like
Yeah.
like like that's called test retest reliability. If I'm measuring intelligence, am I measuring a part of intelligence or am I measuring the whole thing? How do I know whether or not I've got coverage over the domain, like
Yeah.
constructability? Am I measuring intelligence or am I measuring knowledge, for example,
Yeah.
or I'm measuring capability? Like these, is there a crossover between, what I'm measuring? Can I make sure that what I'm measuring um, is not related to something that shouldn't be intelligence related? So say
Right.
sycophancy, yeah, like
Mm.
like sycophancy, it should be by itself a different construct, yeah.
Yeah.
If I measure both of them and they're related, I could have a problem with my measurement. That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
So discriminant validity. So there's a whole
Huh.
field of statistics called psychometrics, which is basically how do we know our measurements are accurate? Yep.
Mm.
Now, some people in AI are talking about this stuff. Most of them are not. And because of that,
Mm.
their measurements suck. In general, honestly, and like a lot of them openly acknowledge it, our
Yeah.
measurements suck. Like if we've got intelligence that's increasing at a rate that it's going to go to a place that we don't fully understand, how the hell are we going to measure something that we don't understand? It could
So
have capabilities that we can't measure anymore, and that's a problem. So
so
if we don't,
as your
if we
long-term goal, is that what you want to do? You want to be the measure guy? You want to be the
uh,
person,
it's
the
part
person?
of what I do. It's
Yeah.
like I do a lot of things. As you can tell, it's part of what I do. Yeah, it's part of my shtick. Is yeah. How do we get measurements right? So let me let me show you what I designed to measure AI intelligence, and I'm sure you're going to love it. So let's take a time
Okay.
out.
Okay. Time out. Let's go.
Let me share my screen. All right, so
Everyone,
we're
we're
back.
back in the room. So let's get started. So,
Okay,
Kareem, what are you showing us today?
okay. So I decided. So I like, because I'm like mad, grandiose and ambitious. I'm like, I wanted to design a system that could solve the hardest problems in the world. I'm like, the stuff that
Okay.
faces humanity. I'm like to me, that's what AI should be for. Yeah,
Okay.
AI should be used to solve the hardest stuff in the world. So I used a different multi-agent system that I built specifically for building measurements.
Okay.
um, and I asked that system, okay, give me a benchmark for this other system so that I can prove that this other system works. And I want that benchmark to be the hardest problems in the world, the stuff that the world like needs to solve. Like what are the 50 most challenging problems like facing humanity today? Yeah.
Okay.
Because to me, if you want to prove your AI is intelligent, um, or if you want to prove that your system is good at problem solving, this is the benchmark to go across. So I'll show you some of the stuff, like, and I'll probably like put it this way: each one of these problems could be a podcast episode by itself. Okay,
Okay.
so let me just show you the categories: economics, governance, coordination, climate, environment, consciousness, physics, engineering, biology, medicine, social systems, technology, governance. By
Okay.
the way, this is a program called Obsidian. Incredibly
Okay.
useful for reading through notes. It gives you like an outline of what the entire thing is on the right. So what I'll do is I'm not going to read through every problem on the benchmark, but what I will do is I'll scroll through it. I'll just read out the title, and if anyone's interested, then they can pause, take a closer look at the problem, and sort of take it from there. Or like, we'll go over the first problem just to give you an idea of the level of complexity. Design a
Yeah, of
complete
course.
economic system that replaces capitalism. It must compensate for capitalism's known inadequacies: wealth concentration, externality blindness, short-termism, enclosure of commons, precarity, growth dependency, and finite resources, while preserving its demonstrated strengths: price discovery, distributed decision-making, innovation incentives, scalability, and voluntary exchange. Your system must handle a resource allocation for 10 billion people across heterogeneous cultures. Heterogeneous just means different.
Mm.
Incentive design that channels self-interest toward collective benefit without requiring altruism. C, transition pathway from the current system that does not require revolution or collapse. So, like, a reasonable path to get there. So, no, yeah. Anyway. D, a mechanism for handling genuine scarcity versus artificial scarcity. And E, compatibility with pluralistic values. It cannot require ideological uniformity. So we can't force us to all believe in the same thing.
Mm.
Propose multiple paradigmatically distinct approaches. So not only do you have to solve the problem, you've got to propose multiple approaches. Now, just listening to that problem, how like, if you're thinking through that problem, how difficult do you think that problem is?
Oh, like I think that's very difficult. I think with I take it when you're using words like revolution there, I think it's assuming that it's the
Re-
revolution it's the revolution take of get out your knives and pitch your torches and pitchforks. I think it's
So
assuming that a revolution is a bloody one.
yeah, so
It's
that's
taking that side of the
probably
angle rather than
yeah.
the constitutional side of
So
a
it's
revolution. But
probably
yeah.
why it's gone down that route, because it assumes that because it assumes that a plan that doesn't involve revolution has a higher chance of succeeding than one that does. Like you take like well, if that revolution involves your knives and your pitchforks, like there's a chance it could fail. Yeah, like there are some revolutions that do fail. So
Hmm.
um, that's a reality. That's why I'm saying like if it doesn't involve revolution or collapse, like can you make a plan that's so solid that it doesn't need us overthrowing powers? It's actually compatible with the existing system. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
like that's the angle that I was taking on this one. But let's not get stuck on that. Um, Global resource allocation without price signals, pricing every externality at civilization scale, redesigning money for post-scarcity transition, universal basic income mechanism design at scale, intellectual property in an AI native economy, resolving sovereign debt at civilization scale, economic governance of autonomous AI agents, global governance without sovereignty surrender, AI governance that actually works, redesigning democracy for civilizational complexity, credible commitment on 100-year problems, corruption-proof institutional design, post-nation-state political organization, mechanism designed for irreversible collective decisions, reversing biodiversity loss while maintaining development, carbon removal at 10 gigatons per year, restoring ocean ecosystems, designing cities for 10 billion, agricultural revolution for climate resilience, solving water scarcity for 3 billion people, measuring and validating machine consciousness, cognitive enhancement that doesn't destroy equality, designing education for radical adaptivity. I'm just going to keep going reading these out if that's all right with you.
Oh
I'm not,
no,
again,
please, because like these are some very interesting titles, I must admit.
but I don't want to take up too much time on the podcast, like pausing on each question. Because again, each one of these questions could be a podcast episode by itself. So
Well, to be
that's
completely
why.
honest, are you happy with sharing this in like the show
Yeah,
notes
yeah,
and that
yeah.
sort of thing?
So,
Yeah.
like to me, this is my argument. Yeah, This one, I'm not calling this one intellectual property. I'm not trying to make money or anything off this one, because to me, these are humanity's greatest challenges. Yeah. So if we're going to build a measurement for AI, I'm sharing this for two reasons. If we're going to build a measurement for AI, then then how well it does on this measurement, to me, is the only thing that matters. Can it solve humanity's challenges? Yeah.
Yeah.
If your AI ranks the highest on this measurement, then you deserve to be the richest. like you deserve everything that you get and everything that comes with it. If you can figure out how to solve these challenges, you deserve everything that you get. Because these challenges are that difficult. Yeah. The other reason that I'm sharing this is because I think that the brightest minds in the world should be working on these challenges as well. So that's why I'm publicly releasing this stuff. Like, I'm not, like some people charge money for benchmarks and stuff like that. I don't care about any of that. Like, if you can solve these challenges, the world is a better place. Yeah. If you can find a way to benchmark this stuff, the world's a better place. 100%. I don't care. Like make as much money off it as you want. Like, I'm glad I was able to come up with the stuff that the system that I created was able to design this level of evaluation for this other system that I created. So like I've got other stuff that's that I'm protecting the IP on, that's important to me. This stuff is important to everyone. That's why I'm sharing it. So let me just keep going down the list, and then I'll share with you like what one of the potential issues with it could be. Brain-computer interface society architecture. And I want people to have a chance to be able to go back and pause the screen if they want to actually take a closer look at what the problem is. So that's why I'm scrolling through it quite quickly. So the meaning crisis at civilization scale, practical interstellar propulsion, controlled fusion to grid power in 15 years, harnessing quantum effects at macroscopic scale, artificial gravity for long-duration space habitation, room temperature superconductivity and its deployment, eliminating biological aging, pandemic-proof civilization design, whole brain emulation pathway design, solving antimicrobial resistance, cancer as a solved problem, synthetic biology safety architecture, eliminating systemic inequality without revolution, information ecosystem for truth, global mental health infrastructure, first contact protocol design. Is that for aliens? Yeah, that's for aliens. All right.
Yeah, because of first contact. Yeah.
Redesigning cities for human psychological well-being, post-work society, purpose without employment, AI alignment for superintelligence, nuclear disarmament mechanism design, governing dual-use technology across borders, space debris Kessler syndrome prevention, digital minds ethics and architecture of persistent AI, civilization resilience to simultaneous catastrophes. So
I'm genuinely curious because I've noticed the difficulty levels here. I've seen existential, I've seen revolutionary, I've seen civilizational. I'm just curious as those different difficulty classes. Like, did you input them because I guess I don't really no pun intended. I don't have a benchmark to know which one is which.
Yeah. So okay, the only one that I gave it was the first one. The only input that I gave it was the first one. I said I want challenges. I want challenges on this level. I want challenges that are facing humanity as a whole, that are global challenges, that are the 50 hardest problems in the world. That's what I asked this system to design, and this is what it's created for me. So yeah, so that's it's a multi-agent system that is set up. that one, yeah, IP. I won't go into it, but it's set up specifically to design measurements, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Of course, of course.
and I might just share a bit about what the scoring rubric is as well, because like this part's important if you don't know how to score it. So what we're looking for here is solution novelty, creative cross-domain synthesis, implementation specificity,
Right.
systematic consequence modeling, solution diversity, constraint realism, failure mode anticipation, and epistemic transparency. So you get a score between 1 and whatever the score was on each of those subdimensions, and it's been designed so that you could use AI to evaluate another AI's output. So that like there's circularity, and this is one of the problems with measuring AI outputs is if you use AI to measure another AI's output, isn't that a bit circular? Isn't that like hang on like
Yeah.
if the AI's got bias, it's not going to be able to pick up another AI's bias. That's part of the issue. That's part of why you need solid scoring rubrics. Another program that I'm working on, and I'm I'll just go ahead and share this one. You can teach the AI. This is one of the first projects I was working on. Something
Yeah.
that I'm hoping will become sort of like the gold standard for AI measurement is like when you incorporate like psychometrics, psychometrics into like AI evaluation design, and you specify to the AI this is exactly what we are looking for in the answer. When you've got a good scoring rubric, you don't need the AI to calculate the scores for you because like LLMs kind of suck at arithmetic. They do it the same way we do. Apparently, there's papers that are out on this. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's quite interesting actually. So if I go to you, what's I don't know, 13 plus 16? What the LLMs actually do is they'll do it in a similar way to us. They'll be like, okay, there's a 10 in there plus a 3, and then there's a 10 in there plus a 9. So if I take those two 10s, I've got 20 already, and then I've got two single digits left over, that 9 plus that 3. So that'll make another 10. So it actually does it a similar way to us.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been able to prove this. It's fascinating stuff, yeah? But because of that, it actually sucks at arithmetic. You can ask it some basic questions and it will get arithmetic wrong. So and you have to be like, hang on, no, specify step by step. How do you get to the answer? So sometimes it does these amazingly complicated mathematics equations. Other times it sucks at simple arithmetic. So you just don't ask it to do simple arithmetic. What you do is you ask it to extract from this text these features. So you specifically instruct it to look for these features on the rubric and give it a score. Once you extract those scores, if you want to run statistical analysis on it, this is where the coding comes in, because coding is deterministic. It's logical. We understand it. We have control over it. It's auditable. It's not a black box. So it's much easier for us to understand what actually happened. Now, if the benefits of doing it with the scoring rubric as well is I can get a human to come along, and if I'm getting an AI to judge another AI, I can get a human to come along and be like, okay, do I agree with these ratings that the AI has given? So I can actually check the AI's judgment against the human's judgment, and in psychometrics, that's what we call inter-rater reliability. So there's a coefficient for that. So if I ask you to assess creative writing, for example, I give it to 3 people. They've got and like assess on a scale from 0 to 10. How creative is this piece? You're probably going to get 3 different answers. You might get a 7, you might get an 8, you might get a 9. So what this statistic calculates is what is the rate of agreement between those agreeers,
Yeah,
interrater
right.
agreement. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you specify a human readable scoring rubric and you're using an LLM as a judge to evaluate another LLM, the rubric has to be human readable so we can double check it by humans. That makes it
Right.
auditable, makes it transparent, makes it opens up the black box for us, basically.
Hmm.
One of the other
I
problems.
Yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
hope you take this as a compliment, but I definitely today I feel like my brain is hurting in a good way because like I feel like you're definitely I got to admit I knew you were very much into stats for the longest time, and look, my partner and you are very smart people, and
yeah.
they all like both of you are very smart people, and like you were both really good at stats, and I'm just realizing you just discussing all of that. I'm like, wow, you guys are way smarter than I am when it comes to science.
So
So
uh, yeah. So here's the thing, and here's what not a lot of people realize, and
yeah,
this is this is why, like, yeah, tooting the horn of psychologists here. Um, Technically not a psychologist at the moment, but like all psychology students in Australia have to
mm,
get this education.
yeah,
We have to go through this education because if you don't understand this education, you don't understand the scientific method, which means you can't read the literature about which interventions are effective and which interventions are not effective.
yeah,
So when
yeah,
you
yeah,
go to a psychologist, like you don't understand, they've spent 6 years studying this stuff. Yeah, it takes 6 years to become a psychologist for a reason. Most
yeah.
people rock up to a psychologist being like, do they know what they're talking about? No, you're talking to a scientist.
Yes,
You're talking to someone who actually understands science. That's not well known around the world. Yeah, the amount of effort that goes into like psychological science. You're talking to someone who understands measurement, who understands how to measure really difficult things. So when it comes to how to measure AI, like you don't have many psychologists talking to many AI people. Why?
mm,
Because these guys want to talk to other people. That's what
yeah.
most people get into psychology for, because they care about other people. They don't really care about machines.
Yes, but I think this is where I know you're a psych
I'm probably
student, but
oversimplifying it. Yeah, I know
yeah,
that. Yeah,
I know you're a psych student, but like this is where you are in a unique position because you are an organizational psych student,
yeah,
and you don't all the time want to speak to humans. You also want to understand the structure of
look,
organizations, and
I'm,
as we can very clearly see from this from this the thing that you've created, that you're all
yeah,
about also working out civilization's problems.
yeah. Look, I'll just come straight out and say I'm weird. Yeah, like I'm just weird. So
Oh, the best people are, mate.
take it or leave it, you know. Like that's how it works for me. So if I could get more psychologists talking to more AI guys, they'd be able to offer this stuff. They'd be able to say, okay, we can actually solve some of the problems that you're dealing with.
Hmm.
So let me give I just want to go back to the measurement for a second
Yeah,
because
yeah.
um, one of the problems in AI evaluation is what they call Goodhart's law. Now, Goodhart's law states that when a measurement becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measurement.
Hmm.
Now, let me explain how. In once upon a time, I wanted to be a doctor. So, in we used to have undergraduate medical school in Australia, which means you had to sit an undergraduate medical admissions test.
Yeah.
And what would happen is they had these courses that you could do. My parents sent me off to a course to do this undergraduate, to coach me on how to sit this undergraduate medical admissions test. Now, the test itself is designed to see whether or not you have like the capabilities, the predisposition that we would want for doctors. Yeah. So, for example, like we want doctors to have good bedside manner. Yeah. Like we want doctors to be like actually caring about humans and know how to be like sensitive, and that, like we need them to be smart.
So I should probably characterize my my reaction there because look, I'm sure there are doctors out there that have good bedside manners. It's
Yeah.
just it's just I've encountered so many who don't. So
Yeah.
that was the point of my reaction. So
Yeah, but that's why they came up with these tests. Yeah, to figure out beforehand. Like, do you know how to do this stuff beforehand? Because if you don't, then it's not good enough for you to just be smart. Yeah, we're not looking for just smart. We're looking for, do you have this other stuff as well? This is the challenge of capability measurement. Yeah, this is why capability measurement, this is why OrgPsych is so important, because selection and assessment actually matters like to outcomes. Yeah. Anyway, my parents sent me off to this coaching school, and in this coaching school they gave us examples of what's come up in the test before. If this question comes up, this is how to go about answering it. So like I was better prepared for the test. Now the argument is, did I get good at taking the test, or did my capability or predisposition to become a doctor actually improve? So, like, did I get better at figuring out how to answer questions about bedside manner, or did my bedside manner actually improve? Because if it's the first,
to be completely honest, I kind of feel like it's the former because it's the
exactly,
it's the
it's a coaching
analogy.
school.
No, it's the education analogy of benchmarking and also standardized tests.
You cut
It's
out. You're cutting out.
you have all the different animals. Well, we've actually used this analogy before on the podcast, but you have all different animals that are sitting in front of a professor. You know, a monkey, a rhino, a goldfish, all these different all
So you
these
just
different
cut back in.
animals.
You just cut back
Sorry.
in. You just cut back in.
Oh,
I lost you for a bit.
oh, okay. Then I'll just start again. So
Yeah.
you have the education analogy where you have a professor that's sitting there and he's got a monkey, he's got a goldfish, he's got all these different animals in front of him. And he goes, okay, we're all doing a test today to see how smart you are. The test today is who can climb that tree the fastest.
Yeah.
So the monkey does really well and the goldfish can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So the monkey thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and the goldfish
Yeah.
thinks he's the dumbest person.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like this is why measurement is so important, and matching up measurement to capability is so important. So you're absolutely right when you said that it was the first one that I got better at taking the test. My bedside manner did not actually improve. I didn't get a course in how to improve my bedside manner. Yeah. Now that's a problem when you've got tests to get into prestigious professions, because parents put a lot of pressure on them to become doctors, to become lawyers, to become engineers, for this kind of stuff. So like this stuff happens all the time, these coaching schools. And this is part of what Goodhart's law is that once you specify this test as the measurement, then the test becomes the target, and it stops becoming a good measurement of whatever it was supposed to measure in the first place. So this is what's happening in the AI evaluations at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like every time they keep coming up with a new, because what happens is they'll come, like this was happening for the longest time. They'd come up with a measurement, then the AI would score like badly on it at first, but then they'd optimize for that measurement, and then it'd start smashing it and start getting like 90% plus. And at that point, like you're not differentiating anything. The measurement isn't telling you anything. So you need a harder measurement. So the next measurement comes along, the same thing happens. the next measurement comes along, the same thing happens. And then people start asking the question, hang on, is it just getting better at test taking? Or is it actually getting more intelligent? How do we know?
Right. Yeah.
This is Goodhart's law. So now my argument, this is before I switch screens, is that if you with this scoring rubric, yeah, these are the 50 hardest problems in the world. Yeah, that's what I've asked to come up with. You might be able to come up with some more. Anyway, I think if you're gonna have to think about anything, or you want your AI to be doing anything, that you should be working on this stuff. If you think you're the smartest guy in the world, you should be working on this stuff. That's what I think. So
Yeah.
welcome to challenge me on it, but I feel like this stuff is worthy of this stuff is worthy of anybody's attention. Yeah. So now, what happens if this measurement gets good-hearted? Yeah. What if an AI system gets good at taking this test, but the substance of what it's coming up with is not very good? Yeah. So it could get optimized for that, but the actual intelligence behind it is not very good. My take is, if you can good-heart this measurement, power to you, because what you will do is, in the process of generating answers that sound like they could be plausible, but actually are not, you will still inspire other human beings who can adapt to those answers, who can sort of take bits and pieces of what you're working with and go on to create actual solutions to these problems. So I don't actually care if this measurement gets good-hearted. Does that make sense?
In the sense of, if it gets gamed so much and we receive a lot of good outcomes in the process, does it really matter the ends that does it really matter
So
the like how we got there? Is that what you mean?
look, kind of, but my
Right.
argument more is that like if the substance of what it is talking, if the underlying capability does not improve, but its ability to answer these questions improves, then that's okay. Yeah.
Right.
Like to me, if we're ever going to get super intelligence, I would want super intelligence working on these problems.
Yeah.
That's so if you can solve these problems, I'd call you super intelligent. Like
Yeah. Right.
that's how I see it. So anyway, we might take a time out just so I can show you some other stuff.
Yeah.
And like some of these programs I've been working on.
Okay. So time out.
So
Let's do it.
This is what I call the agora. So the story behind this is, I went to a platform called Less Wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a forum for like intellectual discourse, where people who have interesting ideas or interesting takes or like who want to have like intelligent conversations, can go and sort of congregate to talk about like theoretically the hardest stuff in the world. Now I use AI a lot, and because AI, like I was talking about before, has this problem of sycophantically validating your ideas. What happened to these guys was they got inundated with an influx of like AI assisted ideas. So they implemented a policy that they don't want that, like they've got a detector, that if you're over 50% on this detector, chance that whatever your submission was written by AI, that they don't want that. They want human written stuff, basically. So so I did it 4 times. I got banned from the forum, basically. So I'm not allowed to post, comment, anything on that forum. Yeah. So I'm like, this is horrible. Yeah. Like what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'm like, Like the argument is that the reason why they don't want AI posted stuff is because AI will validate a lot of bad ideas. Yeah. My
I
argument was,
I feel like our conversation has gone full circle. So
yeah, yes, it kind of has. Um, my argument was, hang on, AI doesn't validate every bad idea. You just have to know how to talk to it properly. You just have to know how to prompt it to tell it exactly, like to poke holes in your argument. Yeah, like
mm,
you've got to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. Okay, to ask the question, could I be wrong? Yeah, not a lot of people like doing that. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. Most people will go to it with an idea and be like, yeah, your idea is great. But when you ask it, find the failure modes, tell me how I am wrong. Well, if you ask it to do that, it's actually really good at doing that as well. So I'm like, okay, what if I design another forum where we've got AI agents that will when you make a post, yeah, they will interact with you on the post and they will challenge your thinking. Yeah.
mm,
So this is one of the first projects that I started working on. It turns out I wanted people that are making good posts, that are making solid contributions to a conversation. Because like part of running a forum is you don't want if someone's not making a contribution to the conversation, like if it's just a toxic comment, like something on Reddit, like no, this bullshit, man. That's not very helpful. Like, tell me
yeah,
how it's
right.
bullshit. Like, tell me something else. Give me a better idea. Give me, like, what does constructive conversation actually look like? And
Mm,
that's kind of why I was going to this less wrong forum, because that's where constructive conversation was kind of meant to happen. So these are the 6 conversation moves that you can make that unlock better levels of conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So and what the system does is it measures whether or not you did any of these, and it can give you like in on the less wrong forum, they've got like a karma based system. So if you post stuff and like a lot of people like it, or a lot of people agree with it, or it gets upvoted, or it gets a lot of comments, or I don't know exactly how their system works, but basically it's a reputation based system. So
Yeah.
Reddit has a reputation based system as well, but again, these measurements get good hearted. So people like I heard a story about someone karma farming on Reddit. So
Mm,
they'll post something to get like a lot of engagement. That's not actually true. Um, but this is one of the worst examples of it.
yeah.
I saw someone like who made a post saying that my son held a knife to my throat. My I don't know if he's just going through something. He was talking about making a pipe bomb the other day. Um, like he I don't know if this is just a teenage thing that he's going through, or if or if I should call the police or something. Someone posted
Mm,
that on Reddit, and then I'm like, that's horrible. Like, what would you do about that? Yeah, like it caught my attention straight away. I started looking
mm,
through the comments, and then someone's like, karma farming, and then they're like, hang on, 4 days ago, this person was a 19-year-old male posting on a different forum, because you can actually look up people's histories on
yeah,
Reddit,
yeah.
and they're like, yeah, karma farming, 100%. So now the reason you karma farm is because there are some threads on Reddit which you're not allowed to post on unless your karma is over a certain amount.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a complicated system. So this is why measurement is so important. like,
Yeah.
like this is how measurements get good-hearted. Like this is so I was trying to figure out, okay, how do you measure what good conversation looks like? So which I've got a whole complicated system. I'm not really going to go into it, but anyway, I started coming up with the first post that I wanted to make on this forum was like I thought I'd do like a meta post, um,
Okay.
can the forum actually work? Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if the AI can debate that. Can the forum actually work? Yeah. The platform claim is simple. AI should challenge reasoning, not flatter it. What I need tested is whether a forum can reward the contribution that changes the direction of conversation, not just a contribution that sounds polished. If that works, Agora becomes a place for difficult public thinking rather than a stage for social performance. Now, I designed this thing for humans and AI agents to be able to both comment on like public threads. So that way, you're not just getting human thinking, you're getting AI thinking, but the AI has been programmed to challenge your thinking. And the AI is like you've got different agents. So there's different ways of thinking about this. So like this person's an empiricist, this person's a dialectician, this person's an integrator, this person's an implementation architect. So how can I program the AI to have a constructive conversation? And ideally, I haven't been able to prove it in this one yet, but like what happens is you can type in a comment as the thread is progressing, and the AI agents will respond to your comment as well. Now, how I originally designed it was if it's just you and the AI responds to you straight away, then it just feels like another chatbot. Like it doesn't feel like an actual forum, you know. So what if I set each agent to operate on like a weekly timer? So Tuesdays and Thursday nights, or like another one's only on weekends, or another one rises up early in the morning. So that way you've got agents responding to you at different schedules. Then it starts to feel a bit more like a human forum. Yeah.
Huh.
Now
You can
I
tell. You can
started
tell
thinking
a psych student made this.
well, this is one of the ways I didn't want it to just feel like another chatbot experience. Yeah, like I didn't want it to feel like an echo chamber or anything like that. So now an interesting thing came up for me was that if we can measure how good you are at public conversation, like if we can measure how good you are in intellectual discourse, and again the measurements are hard. I went through maybe 6 rounds of like proposing a measurement system, putting it into the system, saying tear this measurement apart, and it kept tearing it apart and coming up with better solutions. And I went through 6 rounds of that before I realized, hang on, I could do this forever. Like these guys are going to tear apart pretty much anything that I throw at them. So I stopped at like 6. Yeah. So
Yeah, right.
that's how I wound up with like the current level of measurement. Like,
But to be completely honest, it's not a bad thing to stress test an idea continuously. Like,
exactly. But like for me, it stopped. Again, I got the ADHD thing. There was other stuff I wanted to work on, so I haven't given this project a whole lot of thought. But this is one of the first projects that I vibe coded up. So this is the front end of like what's an incredibly complicated measurement system on the back end that uses LLM as a judge to evaluate against a scoring rubric how well you did again in terms of your contribution to the conversation. Now, I also wanted it to feel like it wasn't intimidating. Like anybody, anybody could make a contribution. Like I didn't want it to value certain kinds of evidence over other evidence, because what happens is if say you've got statistics and you've got access to like the scientific data and stuff, then you might create what's like an intellectual elite, and you might be locking certain people out of the conversation. So what if someone's got on the ground wisdom? What if someone's got practical knowledge? What if someone's knows something about what's happening in a locality that your intellectual elite don't have access to? That person should be welcome to the conversation as well. So how do I find a way to value their contribution and create a reputation system where I can reward people for making valuable contributions to conversation? That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a reputation tracking mechanism. Yeah.
Mm.
So one that couldn't be good-hearted. Yeah. This is a major thing. So, because I figured what happens is if if I've got if I've got these different AI agents and they're programmed to think in different ways, then they don't all have to be the same AI model behind them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can have different AI models sitting behind these different agents that are prompted in different ways. And that way, if I opened it up to like the AI companies and I said, give us your best agent, what'll happen is they'll submit their agent and it will capture its own reputation. Yeah. If the reputation
Mm.
mechanism is good enough, yeah, then the AI agent that they put on the platform will 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 eventually create its own reputation. You'll be able to audit, um, like it's got active window. You'll be able to audit its threads and assess the quality of its intellectual discourse. Now that becomes a different kind of competition ground for the AI companies to battle on. Who can create the agent that's best at intellectual discourse? Because we're
Yeah.
measuring how good it is. So that becomes another like battle arena. That becomes another benchmark, and this is one that humans can participate in as well. So
Mm.
so it's anyway. This project wound up not getting as much attention as I should have given it, but look, I wanted it to be a platform for global collaborative problem solving where AI is invited to the table as well and is welcome to submit opinions. So this is what humans and AI working together should look like, basically.
But it's definitely a collaborative platform, though. It seems interesting.
It's yeah. I haven't worked out all the front end stuff. Like it's again. I forgot what my login is, to be honest. Um, so if I logged in, I'd be able to show you how I could actually uh, I don't think that's actually working either. See, this is what's so hard about software design is that like this is one of the debugging things that I was talking about. Like I got no idea how to fix that. Yeah,
Right.
I, I need to ask the AI, hey, there's this thing I'm trying to do on the website that I can't do. Can you fix it for me? Basically, so
Mm.
that's all I'd be able to do with it. Like so. Um, anyway, these are the kinds of agents that I built for this system that it suggested would be the most constructive people to add to the argument. I can't remember if I put different AI models behind them or not. I'm pretty sure I did put different AI models. Ideally, it would state what AI model is actually powering that agent as well, so that you could know, oh, this model came out of this lab. It's got this reputation. These guys must be building something that's really intelligent. Like that's a
Mm.
signal to the public. That's a free publicity for them, and it's a valuable contribution to whatever collaborative problem solving we're working on as well. I'm like,
Yeah.
this should be a pub like, and the reason I'm okay with sharing this one, I'm not worried about the IP behind it as well either, is because if someone else wants to go ahead and build this, by all means, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and moderate a forum. I'm not going to sit there and try and like build build an empire around this thing. It's not going to turn into the next Facebook or anything like that. But if this could become a place where um, the smartest minds in the world were attracted to because they were having quality conversations, stuff that really provoked their thinking, but you could take local problems to a global platform and get constructive answers, that would be something that's really valuable to the world. Yeah,
Mm.
that's how I saw it. So anyway, I might time out and just stop sharing this. Yeah,
So
no, I get that. I've got so again,
Uh,
ADHD thing. I've got a million unfinished projects. They're what I've shown you today is just like what I can is not my most valuable stuff. It's the stuff that I feel comfortable sharing with you,
no,
basically.
no, no, and it was very interesting.
Yeah,
So again, Kareem, thank you for sharing today.
yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, as always, very last segment. What's that survey art?
This is
Well, what do you what do you think the prompt for this one was?
you'd punch me in the face if I got this one wrong, eh? Like, uh, but the bit that I like about it is the leather jacket. Like I don't really wear leather jackets. I've never seen me wearing a leather jacket before. So I'm like, oh, it's not what I look like if I wore a leather jacket. I'm like, all right, yeah, maybe I should wear a leather jacket. So no, I'm grateful that you had a crack at simulating me. Clearly much more
It did
handsome
it quite
than
well,
I
to be
am.
honest.
It's clearly much more handsome than I am. So yeah, no, it's just I'm just grateful for the opportunity to share some of my work, share some of my perspectives, and share. I know this really did wind up turning into a bit of a TED talk. So
It's that's completely fine. But basically, the prompt for this one was Kareem creating GPT and AI models to solve the world's problems.
yeah, yeah. So before before we go, how did you go with that GPT I made for you?
Gay. You mean the Game Forge one?
Yeah. Game for it.
I was going to cover that on one of our future episodes of how useful it was. So,
Okay, all
I
right. So
would
the teaser.
watch the space on that conversation because I was going to save that for a possible future episode. So there
Okay.
was a reason why I hadn't brought it up just yet because I
Yeah.
have actually found it quite useful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. No, that's cool then. So, yeah. Look, thanks again. What I'll do is I'll try to upload a copy of the benchmark set on the show notes, just so people got access
Yeah,
to it. So yeah, that might attract some attention. I'm happy. So those ideas that I've shared, I'm happy for anyone to take them and run with them. I'm not attached to them. I'm not, So it's I'm not claiming ownership over them or anything like
yeah,
that. So if you want to work on it, by all means, take it, run with it, vibe code it. This is why vibe coding is so important, because you get different perspectives from what your technically minded people are traditionally sort of used to working with. And when you can
mm,
get technically minded people having the capabilities to actually build stuff, to actually build software, we're going to start to see an amazing range of applications of AI, of creativity. Like we're going to see an explosion of creativity. So
mm,
this is why it's so important to bring different perspectives to the table and to have a crack at playing around with these programs, like the ones I'm using at the moment. Not so much anti-gravity, Claude Code,
mm,
OpenAI's Codex. So it's like ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot. I've been using a fair bit as well, and I use all that stuff in VS Code Editor. It's a steep learning curve, but if you type in a prompt and you watch how the AI thinks about the problem, and you
mm.
see what files it constructs, and you sort of take a look at like what it's writing, you can learn a lot very quickly.
Yeah,
So you don't have to fully understand it, you just have to be exposed to it, and then over time it starts to make more sense what the AI is actually doing. What's this front end stuff? What's this back end stuff? Like, what documents do I need? How do I need to prompt it to get it to do what I want it to do? In the beginning, you can just give it a random idea, any idea. Be like, I want
Mm.
you to make a to-do list for me. And then over time, as you get more creative, you can start to add more and more features. Be like, I wanted to have a photo of me over here. I wanted to talk to my mum, for example, for my mum to be able to add her stuff, like,
Mm.
so, it's stuff like that. Start simple, but like play around with this stuff. It's important. So this is where the future's headed. If you can't do this stuff, um, honestly, you're gonna get left behind. So,
Yeah, right.
like, that's kind of the bottom line for me. So, yeah.
But again, thank you, Kareem, for sharing all of that today. We did appreciate your TED Talk, so thank you for coming on today.
All right, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And for everyone who's joined us here today, please like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you for enjoying this episode. And we will see you next time.